Sister Ada, welcome. I am Virgil, Chief Inquisitor at St. Walpurgis Abbey. We may be in need of your talents as an exorcist. You can survey the evidence yourself, but I think you will agree.
Has there truly been a murder?
It seems so. A respected priestess, Mother Miriam, passed this morning under suspicious circumstances. A demon may be present. Here, even now, possessing someone.
What happened, exactly?
Mother Miriam was only recently appointed as successor to Abbot Gregory. This morning, she came to the workshop to receive her coronet of office.
Something went wrong with the installation.
Yes, to put it mildly, the coronet oversurged, killing Mother Miriam. Brace yourself for the sight.
Then, the workshop operators, Gideon and Reuben, are the prime suspects. They are brothers, right?
Yes, but it's highly out of character for Gideon or Reuben to kill someone. Even so, they were the only ones present when Mother Miriam died.
Daemons nurture our sinful desires into unthinkable actions, Virgil. One of the brothers has surely been seduced by a daemon. Whichever it is, I will unmask his lies and cast out the daemon within him.
May Einsoff's will be done. Amen.
To exorcise a daemon, we must uncover 4 things. First, the suspect. We must identify which sinner is possessed by a daemon. Second, the opportunity. When exactly was the murder committed? We can pinpoint the opportunity by analyzing each suspect's testimonies. Third, the means by which the murder has been committed. The means can be found among the physical evidence at the scene of the incident. Fourth, the motive of the murderer, which can be found in their inner world, their sanctum. The motive will tell us which daemon possesses the sinner.
Very well. Let us begin our holy work.
This is madness! I will not suffer this injustice! I am Gideon the Grand, the greatest cybernetician of our generation. I am blessed. I don't know what went wrong this morning. My hands are guided by the divine.
I see only gaudy trinkets here. Mother Miriam died by your hands. Is that not so?
Mother Miriam came to me for her consecration ceremony. I've performed this many times before, so I was confident. To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take Mother Miriam to the consecration chamber. Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplifier. Miriam came to me for her consecration ceremony. Mother Miriam came to me for her consecration. To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take... Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and then placed it on Mother Miriam's head. We began by closing our eyes and praying together to Ein Sof. I thought I heard the chamber open, but didn't think much of it. Then I activated the consecration chamber and began the ceremony itself. The aether output was within safe ranges.
An exorcist? Surely there are no demons here, though. This was an accident, wasn't it? If Gideon is possessed, that would mean he did it on purpose. Horrible.
You must be the elder brother.
Yes, my name is Reuben Garamond. I am responsible for the engineering and design of our implants.
How How did Mother Miriam die, exactly?
It was a completely preventable accident. Mother Miriam died because Gideon deliberately flouted the ceremonial guidelines for his own glory. Gideon may be my flesh and blood, but he must take responsibility for his negligence. Mother Miriam came to us to receive a consecration ceremony, but she wanted something extravagant. Gideon suggested setting the coronet to have maximum ether output. I warned him that doing so is highly dangerous. Gideon convinced her to move forward with the ceremony anyway. Since he was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. I begged Gideon to stop, but he didn't listen.
Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet. To prepare for the...
Gideon convinced her to move forward with the ceremony anyway. Since he was going to handle everything, I went back to my task. They decided to perform the ceremony anyway. I opened the consecration chamber since Gideon was going to handle it. They decided to since Gideon was when Gideon activated the consecration chamber, since Mother Miriam came to us to Gideon. They decided to perform the ceremony. Since Gideon was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. Then the since Gideon was going to When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. I begged Gideon to stop, but he didn't listen. They decided to perform the ceremony anyway. Since Gideon was going to handle everything, I went back to my tasks. So I opened the consecration chamber to verify that the coronet was in working order. Everything seemed fine, so I returned to my desk again. When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. I begged Gideon to stop, but he didn't listen.
Mother. Then I rose up. The Aether. We began by closing. To prepare. Mother Mary. It happened. Mother Miriam came. Mother Miriam came to me for her consecration ceremony. I've performed this many times before, so I was confident. Mother Miriam wanted the coronet to be spectacular, so I suggested maximizing its aether amplification. To prepare for the ceremony, I ordered Reuben to take Mother Miriam to the consecration chamber. Meanwhile, I adjusted the coronet's amplification at my work table, and then placed it on Mother Miriam's head. We began by closing our eyes and praying together to Ein Sof. I thought I heard the chamber open, but didn't think much of it. Then I rose up, opened my eyes, and approached the control panel. I was ready to begin. The Aether would mean to prepare for the stream. Then I rose up, opened my eyes, and approached the control panel. I was ready. The Aether output was dangerously high, but I had the chamber under control. Then I rose up, opened my eyes, and approached the The Aether output was dangerously high.
They decided to perform the ceremony anyway. I opened the consecration. Since Gideon When Gideon activated the consecration chamber, I immediately felt something was wrong. I begged Gideon to stop, but he didn't listen. Since they decided to perform the ceremony anyway.
Ein Sof sees all, Rube. You killed Mother Miriam to frame Gideon and take him down a peg. With Gideon gone, a daemon whispered that people would finally recognize you for your genius.
I am older than Gideon. My work is better than Gideon, and more important. But no one sees my work. No one understands my work.
Confess, Reuben. Tell us what the daemon made you do.
Gideon was Mother Miriam's favorite. She barely knew I existed. When Gideon suggested increasing the ether output of the coronet, I had an idea. I would sabotage the ceremony by removing the limiter. Mother Miriam had no idea what was about to happen to her. I went back to my workstation, waiting for Gideon to close his eyes. While Gideon and Mother Miriam were praying, I reopened the chamber and removed the limiter. When Gideon started the ceremony, I placed the limiter on his table so that it would look as though his negligence led to Mother Miriam's death. When the oversearch began, I goaded Gideon on by telling him to stop the ceremony. Of course he didn't listen. And so Mother Miriam died. I killed her. I regret only that I've been discovered.
Demonic corruption runs deep within Reuben's soul. Yet Reuben may still... I must speak the daemon's true name. Then the daemon will be cast out. Ein Sof, guide me. What daemon has possessed Reuben? Out! Lotan! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Magnificently done, Madam Exorcist.
The power of Ain Soph compels you, Lotan! Leave this soul and return to the ether!
Thousands of years, and you humans never change. Never satisfied, always comparing, wanting more. Someone else is always richer, prettier, wiser, better. Nothing can ever fill that void within you. Not even me.
Silence, Lotan. Reuben may yet be redeemed. You are a scourge. Without your influence, a good woman would still be alive. Leave humans be, Lotan. I banish you to the ether!
As you wish, but I'll return soon enough. My prince and master Lucifer walks among you. Lucifer will open the gates of hell, and at last, humanity will remember its full potential. Until then, Madam Exorcist, adieu.
Come forth, Reuben. What remains of you?
Thank.
He's silent and still. Poor soul. Rest, Reuben. Heal, if you can.
Sister Ada, you've returned. Was there a demon at work after all?
I'm afraid so. The exorcism was a success. Reuben's soul has been purged. Unfortunately, the daemon was difficult to cleanse. Reuben is returned to pure innocence.
What? The exorcism shattered his mind?
It's out of my hands. If Ain Soph wills it, maybe Reuben will heal.
Guards, please escort this shell to the cryostasis cellar. I pray for his swift recovery. Abbot Gregory!
Praise be to Ain Soph, Sister Ada. You have saved us all. On behalf of everyone at St. Walpurgis, I express our utmost gratitude.
We are not yet safe. We must act quickly until we locate the source of the demonic influence. We don't understand yet why demons would act after 100 years. Holy Father, we must quarantine the abbey and the surrounding town immediately. Detain and interrogate anyone who seems suspicious.
We can try, Sister Ada, but it will be difficult, as we have visitors arriving hourly. Much like yourself, pilgrims from afar are here to celebrate Walpurgisnacht. It's such a shame Mother Miriam couldn't bear witness to it.
Ah, yes, the priestess. We must destroy her body immediately. Traces of demonic influence may remain from her contact with Reuben.
No, Sister Ada, thank you for your concern, but we absolutely cannot. Mother Miriam was a prominent figure and well-loved, with decades of service. We must treat her body with dignity and give her a proper burial. Send Mother Miriam's body to the mortuary for embalming.
Your Excellency, we really ought to take the advice of the exorcist.
Mother Miriam's body has been desecrated enough, Virgil. Send her to the mortuary, now.
As you command, Your Excellency.
Holy Father, you are making a grave mistake.
Sister Ada, don't worry yourself. All will be well. St. Walpurgis' triumph over Lucifer has brought us a century of peace and bliss. It's horrifying that a demon was exorcised from our abbey, but surely it was the final remnant.
The daemon within Reuben spoke of Lucifer's return. Lucifer's ways are insidious. Even the most devout among us have temptations.
It's a shame Brother Reuben fell to the demon. But the rest of my flock is stronger. Faith shall be their shield. Now, please excuse me. This evening's mass requires my attention. We are honored by your presence, Sister Ada. Praise be to Ein Sof.
Even the Holy Father can be foolish, then. Ein Sof. Let it not be true that Lucifer walks. But if it is, Ein Sof, guide me, that I may unmask all lies, no matter how painful.
Praise Ein Sof. Thank you for coming to our aid so quickly, Sister Ada.
You said it was urgent. Has something happened to Mother Miriam's body?
No, in some ways, that would have been easier. There is now a second untimely death.
Another murder. On the very same day. This can't be a coincidence.
That isn't for me to say, but this time, the victim is a younger acolyte named Isaac. His remains were found in the grave that was dug for Mother Miriam. Poor kid's throat was slit.
Gruesome. Who was at the graveyard when the body was found?
Only 3 people were present this afternoon. A scholar, an embalmer, and a grave tender. Father Augustine is a scholar, visiting for Mother Miriam's funeral. The victim was his apprentice. Sister Nerissa, an embalmer with a sterling reputation, preparing Mother Miriam's body for burial. Finally, Abraham, the grave tender, a layman who has kept the grounds of the abbey for many years. None of them say they were near the grave until after the body was discovered.
Which means someone is lying. No matter. Ein Sof sees all. We will unmask their lies and bring the truth forward. I swear it. must be Father Augustine. The victim was your apprentice, correct?
Correct. And you are Sister Ada, the exorcist. It is a unique pleasure. I arrived at the graveyard with Isaac for Mother Miriam's funeral. Isaac headed to the mortuary on a minor errand. Then I passed through the graveyard until I saw the statue of Saint Walpurga. What craftsmanship! And so well maintained. For most of the afternoon, then, I passed through the graveyard until I saw the statue of Saint Well. For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and admiring. At sunset, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac. I was surprised to find an open grave with something inside. Ah, Isaac. I was horrified to discover that it was Isaac's dead body. That's when I called for help.
Praise Ain Soph. You must be the famed exorcist. It is an honor, sister. I'm Nerissa, and I serve Ain Soph by preparing the dead for burial. I take pleasure in providing cleanliness and comfort for bodies after their souls have departed.
I see. Nerissa, how did you know the victim?
Not at all. The first time I saw him, he was curled in that grave, dirty and bloody. The whole afternoon, I prepared Mother Miriam's body for burial. There isn't much else to tell. Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral scheduled for this evening. Grave to tell. Once Abraham left, I started preparing the body for burial. I was alone the entire time. No one came by. Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the mortuary, bellowing that the grave is now ready. I sent him away to focus. After Abraham's disturbance, I completed the embalming to the best of my humble abilities. Just after dark, I heard a scream from the back field. A dead body was found. Pardon.
Release me! I had nothing to do with that boy.
You must be Abraham, the grave tender. As the grave tender, any crimes that took place here are your responsibility. If you are truly innocent, hide nothing, and tell me what happened. We'll find the truth together.
I spent the early afternoon tending to the bushes by the mortuary. When I headed back to the mortuary, Nerissa told me there was nothing else special to do for the day. So I left her to her work. I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches. I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench. Suddenly, I heard someone call for help from the back field. I ran over, surprised to see a dead body in the grave.
Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral scheduled for this evening. Grave to tell. The truth is that the apprentice did come by. He asked for a bouquet for the funeral later that day. Grave to tell. When I showed him the bouquet, he held it for a moment and then threw it on the floor. I suppose it wasn't to his master's tastes. I forgot to pick it back up. Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before the funeral, so I led him out the back exit. Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the mortuary, bellowing.
I spent the early afternoon tending to the bushes by the mortuary. Nerissa told me there'd be an urgent funeral in the evening. I'm not usually told who it's for. So I picked up the shovel and went down to the rear plot to dig a new grave. The ground was hard. Took me some time to dig that hole. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone else around, so it was nice and peaceful. Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know. When I headed back to the mortuary, Nerissa told me there was nothing else special to do for the day. So I left her to her work. I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches. Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. I took a long break while digging. It's within my... Nerissa told me there'd be an urgent funeral in the evening. I'm not usually told who it's... I took a long...
Then the boy asked... I walked...
I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench. I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench.
For most of the for most of the afternoon I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and admiring. I arrived at the graveyard with Isaac for Mother Miriam's funeral. Isaac headed to the mortuary.
I walked through the mortuary. Suddenly I heard someone call for help. I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench. Suddenly
I arrived at the graveyard with Isaac for Mother Miriam's funeral.
Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral.
Nerissa told me there'd be an urgent So the ground was hard. Took me some time to dig that hole. I took a long break while digging. It's within my rights. There wasn't anyone else around, so... Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa... When I headed back to the mortuary, I walked through the mortuary, then headed downhill towards the benches. First.
Early this afternoon. Then the boy asked to be taken to the rear fields before. After Early this afternoon, then the boy asked. Mid-afternoon, Abraham barged into the... After Abraham left, I noticed that my multi-tool wasn't in my pocket. I searched all over the mortuary for it, but it was missing. I did what I could without making new incisions, but that made things slower and messier. I'm not pleased with the results. Just after dark, I heard a scream from the back field. A dead body was found.
I arrived at the... There. For mo... I would...
I walked through them. For most of the afternoon, I was walking through the graveyard, merely observing and... Then I passed through the graveyard until I saw the statue of Saint Walpurga. It took me a little while, but I found it. The grave of Sergius. I placed my scanner in front of the gravestone. It would take some time to decode the etchings. Then I saw a stranger pass by. He was tall, barrel-chested. I think he was the groundskeeper. Afterwards, I waited by the grave for my scanner to complete its task. It was taking longer than I expected, so I had to leave it. When the sun was setting, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac and begin the funeral.
At sunset, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac.
When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know. Digging.
Pardon.
When I passed by the grave, it was still empty, ready for the funeral. I walked through the walls to reach the front field. I suppose that's when the scholar saw me. I spent the remainder of the afternoon resting on a bench. I walked through the walls to reach the front field. I suppose that's when the scholar saw me. I had a sickle with me because I wanted to trim the grass around a grave in the front field. I walked through the walls to I had a sickle with me because I wanted to trim the grass around a grave in the front field.
Afterwards, I waited by the grave for my scanner to complete its task. When the sun was at sunset, I wandered to the back area to meet with Isaac. Afterwards, I waited by the grave for my scanner to complete. Then I saw a stranger pass by. He was tall, barrel-chested. I think he...
I took a long break while digging. It's within my right. Then I got back to it and finished digging the grave. When the grave was ready, I walked back to the mortuary to let Nerissa know.
When I showed I did what just after
arrived at the graveyard with Isaac for Mother Miriam's funeral. Then I passed through the graveyard until I saw the statue of Saint Walpurga.
I did what I could without making new incisions, but that made things slower and messier. I'm not pleased with the... After Abraham left, I noticed that my multi-tool wasn't in my pocket. I searched all over the mortuary. After Abraham left, I noticed that my multi-tool wasn't in my pocket. I was desperate to find the tool to finish my work. I tried searching outside, but I couldn't find anything in the rain. I did what I could without making new incisions, but that made things slower and messier. I'm not pleased with...
Ain Suf sees all, Nerissa. You are the only person who could have killed Isaac.
Curse you, and curse Ain Soph. How can the eye see all? Does it see my suffering? Where was Ain Soph when my family was dying in the street, chewing on leather just to live another day?
The famine was a test, Nerissa. Ain Suf wanted you to demonstrate your faith, your will to live.
Have you ever felt true hunger? When you haven't eaten for days, reality shifts. The body needs.
We all have our challenges set out before us, Nerissa. Some more difficult than others.
Do you think I was the only one that fed on human flesh?
It's not for me to judge what you did back then. That's between you and your confessor. But today, you murdered an innocent youth so that you could feed on his liver. A daemon has possessed you. Confess, Nerissa. Speak the truth. It is time.
Early this afternoon, I informed Abraham of the funeral scheduled for this evening. I'm grave to tell. The truth is, that boy did come by. He asked for a bouquet for the funeral later that day. I'm grave to tell. When I brought him to the bouquet table, I don't know what came over me. The hunger clenched my belly suddenly. I've seen the butchers do it. It only took a quick slash to his throat, and he fell to the floor. I knew where to get the best cut. His liver. It was still warm. I couldn't believe the taste. Like nothing I've eaten before. Heavenly. Then, Abraham barged into the mortuary, bellowing that the grave is now ready. I sent him away to focus. My senses were returning, and I cleaned up my mess. I sealed the boy's body, putting the liver from the body I had been embalming inside and sealing it. I carried him to the new grave and quickly tossed him in. I heard someone coming, so I didn't have time to bury him. I was shaking with adrenaline. In my hurry to return to the mortuary, my multi-tool must have slipped out of my apron's pocket. I stored what was left of the liver among the other entrails, hoping to finish it later. I wanted to savor its deep, rich flavors. Sooner than I anticipated, I heard a scream from the backfield. Someone had already discovered the body.
Nerissa's wretched soul is twisted by demonic influence. I must speak the daemon's true name. Then the daemon will be cast out and be banished to the ether. Ain-Soph, guide me. What daemon has possessed Nerissa? Out, Beelzebub! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
No! We must feed! Nerissa! Delicious, scrumptious little morsel! We must have more! The hunger is an endless pit! More!
Speak, Beelzebub. Why has your kind returned?
Hunger is a primal need. Just as you feed on lesser life forms, growing them in captivity for slaughter. We feed on you, the meat of your emotions, the marrow of your deepest desires.
You will prey upon us no longer, Beelzebub. Return to the ether, and never come back.
I must obey for now, but we won't be gone too long. Tonight, Lucifer will open the gates of hell. I won't be the only one allowed to feast. Ada, you juicy little morsel, we shall devour you soon. You and all the other delicacies.
Nerissa. Do you hear me, Nerissa? Was I too late? Goodbye, Nerissa.
So this is the power of an exorcist. I've dreamed of seeing this. It looks a bit different than I imagined, however. What's happening to her?
Ada, look out!
Huh?
Halt, Nerissa! Good. I've stunned her. Are you all right, Sister Ada?
Yes. You came just in time. My thanks, Virgil.
Ein Sof, save us! Another possession! Another killing! How is this possible? Who is responsible? Virgil, you have failed us. How could you allow this to happen?
Unfortunately, Father, I believe you are primarily responsible. We should have listened to Ada. She warned us about the contaminated body, and its demons spread, just as she said.
We must act now. We can't waste any more time bickering about who's to blame. The daemon within Nerissa spoke of Lucifer's return. He walks among us.
It's perverse that they would return now on the holiest of days. Why?
It doesn't matter why. The Abbey is unsafe, Father. Cancel the Mass. Send the pilgrims home. If you proceed, you are risking all their lives.
No, Father, you must stay the course. We've worked too hard for this moment. I have decoded the ancient hymn of communion. The Mass can proceed as planned. This chance will not come again for another century. It's literally the last chance we have in our lifetimes.
What is the significance of that hymn? Why must it be sung tonight?
According to Augustine's research, it honors Saint Walpurga and her victory, in a way uniquely pleasing to Ein Sof.
I protest. But if you absolutely must hold the Mass, at least allow me to guard you at the altar. You are putting yourself in danger. What if you were possessed?
That may be unwise, Father. Surely if things are as dangerous as you say, nobody should be trusted. How do we know this supposed exorcist is not the pawn of Lucifer?
That's absurd! You witnessed the exorcism!
No, I saw her turn a woman into a rabid beast. What really transpired in the ether when she supposedly exorcised these demons? She invokes the demons' names. She knows them more intimately than any of us.
I speak their names to control them and then banish them.
Or perhaps you are being used by them. How would we...
The only thing that possesses me is the flame of Ein Sof. I shouldn't have to defend myself.
Actually, what Augustine says makes sense. We should be extra cautious, just in case. I don't want you at the Mass. If you truly believe Lucifer lurks at my abbey, find him. Unmask him. Search the grounds as you like, but stay away from the chapel or I will have you put in a cell. Nothing can be permitted to interrupt the Mass and the hymn. Especially after the events of today. Saint Walpurga deserves to be honored for her victories. Inquisitor, Augustine, come. We have much to prepare. Very wise, Father. As
It would be best if you were wrong, Ada.
That's because it is. Lucifer will strike tonight, Virgil. I only pray he strikes at me instead of at the Mass. Stay vigilant. Virgil, where's Abbot Gregory? What interrupted his Mass? Where's Abbot Gregory? What interrupted his Mass?
The abbot. His death was the interruption. A third murder, I'm afraid. The lights went out during Mass. Moments later, the statue of Saint Walpurga crashed down from the ceiling, impaling Abbot Gregory with its spear.
An assassination, then. But why? We must determine who is possessed immediately. Examining the facts will reveal Ein Sof's truth. How was the statue held in place?
Due to its weight, we had to rely on using aether-powered restraints to hang it above the altar, which means the killer must have sabotaged the 2 power generators on the balcony floor. There were only 2 people on the balcony during the Mass. I've detained them for interrogation. I've sent the pilgrims back to town, lest they panic and disturb the evidence.
Excellent work, Virgil. Who are the suspects? You said there were two.
You already know them. Brother Gideon and Father Augustine.
Since you are a key witness to the events, I will of course hear your testimony as well. May Ain Soph show us the truth behind all of today's events.
Grab that, and then grab this. So, go to this purple one, grab the armor, grab the gun, the R301, and the ammo. Just pick up purple. Yeah.
What? Is this whole
Yeah. So hold left click on the R301, grab the ammo, grab the armor, and then pick up the med, the heal.
So you can definitely tell that Nico's
Yes.
You guys can see, like, I'm doing things.
Okay, yes.
I'm doing things, and I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, so here, grab this. The ammo, so grab. Yeah. Yeah,
Got it,
another
got
grab
it,
right
got
here.
it.
Yeah, and then grab this right here. Okay.
Like a better shield.
No, purple better, and then use it.
Stores shield, so I should probably take something out.
Yeah. No. So now you want to press 4, and then do. And then it will do like a wheel. 4. Then select the shield battery.
Did I do it?
4, and then yeah. Oh, yes.
Wow, this is very crazy.
That's how you heal.
Wait, so I shouldn't have used it?
Oh, you should have.
Okay.
Yeah, because like your shield was broken, so you need to your shield back.
You're fucking nice.
Go big teeth.
Trying to get Swanson Timmy. Age 329. Hi Timmy. It's Timmy. You're lying and it's not 329 days, then I'm gonna get you. They're lying. Venom. Here you are.
We arrived shortly before the mass began.
Yep. Then,
Inquisitor,
yeah,
prepare.
with you.
As you command. I began my patrol by securing the east side of the balcony. I saw Gideon examining the ritual bell.
Okay. What's that, bro? Watch out, Nico.
Oh,
Oh, it's crazy. Hold on.
Nico's flanking. Nico's not flanking.
Okay. That.
Wait, hi.
We can try.
Like, wait a minute.
Praise be to Microsoft.
Then, I patrolled the south balcony. Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the chapel from the south balcony. As I heard the ritual bell ring for the second time, the lights went out. I suspected foul play, so I headed towards the west generator. Along the way, I discovered Gideon lying unconscious. To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. Along the way, I heard an explosion. Then, the statue's aether restraints deactivated, dropping and impaling Abbot Gregory. May he rest in peace. When I arrived at the generator, Augustine was standing nearby, smirking at the carnage he caused. I arrested him there and then. I began my patrol by securing the east side of the balcony. I saw Gideon examining the ritual bell. Then, I patrolled the south balcony. Everything appeared to be in. Then, I patrolled the south balcony. Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the chapel from the south.
This can't be happening! Yet another death? Am I to be blamed again?
Calm yourself, Gideon.
The guards.
At the start of the night, I was waiting near the organ.
Loko ba?
As you command.
When the Mass began, I played the entry hymn on the organ. I think I played well enough, though I didn't have much time to practice it. After the opening hymn, I listened to Abbot Gregory's sermon. It was a pretty good one. When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind. I fell unconscious until just now. When the Mass began, at the start of the night, I was waiting near the organ. Given the tragic events of this morning, I examined the condition of the east generator to ensure the safety of the chapel.
Inquisitor, prepare.
As you command.
Next, I checked the ritual bell. As I was doing this, I saw Inquisitor Virgil gazing at the altar. I knew Mass was about to begin, so I headed back to the organ. When the Mass began, I played the entry hymn on the organ. I think I played well enough, though I didn't have much time to practice it. After the opening hymn, I listened to Abbot Gregory's sermon. It was a pretty good one. When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind. I fell unconscious until just now.
Ah, poor Abbot Gregory. We had such hopes and plans together. If only he had listened to your sage advice, Sister Ada. Perhaps he would be safe now,
You. I cannot ignore that you are the link. Everything that has happened today points back to you, Augustine.
It must be a tragic coincidence. The abbot was my friend and trusted ally. I wished him no harm.
Explain your actions. What were you doing on the balcony?
With Mother Miriam's passing, Abbot Gregory needed someone to ring the ritual bell. I volunteered. It was an honor. The abbot, Virgil, and I arrived at the chapel just before the Mass. When I headed to my seat for the Mass to begin, I was rather excited for the proceedings. We began by singing the hymn of communion. It was glorious. When the sermon started, I headed to the balcony to prepare to ring the bell. I rang the bell to announce the start of communion. I'd noticed Gideon was absent from the other balcony, but didn't think much of it at the time. I rang the bell a second time. Suddenly, the lights went out and the chapel was covered in darkness. I stood calmly by the bell, waiting for someone to fix the problem.
What is going on?
Moments later, the statue dropped from the ceiling. And I saw the abbot impaled by the statue. I'll never forget that image. That's when Virgil arrested me. When I witnessed moments later, the statue dropped from the ceiling. But I saw the abbot impaled.
began my patrol by securing the east side of the balcony. I saw Gideon examining the ritual bell. We arrived shortly before the Mass began. At the abbot's behest, I patrolled the upper floor of the chapel. First, I secured the east balcony. I went up the balcony, but I listened in on the abbot and Augustine. I think they were discussing the ritual of communion. I was suspicious of Augustine, but I continued my duties by continuing my patrol. Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the chapel from the south balcony.
When I headed to my seat for the Mass to begin, I was rather excited for the proceedings.
Dito.
The abbot, Virgil, and I arrived at the chapel. At the altar, the abbot and I discussed the ritual significance of the Mass tonight. When I headed to my seat for the Mass to begin, I was rather excited for the proceedings. We began by singing the hymn of communion. When the I rang.
I was suspicious of Augustine. But I continued my duties by continuing. Everything appeared to be in order, so I ended my patrol and watched over the chapel from the south balcony. As I heard the ritual bell ring for the second time, the lights went out. To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. As I heard the ritual bell ring for the second time, the lights went out. I suspected foul play, so I headed towards the west generator. Along the way, I discovered Gideon lying unconscious. To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. Along the way, I heard an explosion. Then, the statue's aether restraints deactivated, dropping and impaling Abbot Gregory. May he rest in peace.
Given the tragic events of this morning, I examined the condition of the east generator to ensure the safety of the chapel.
The abbot vert.
After the opening hymn, I listened to Abbot Gregory. When the ritual of communion began, someone attacked me from behind. I fell unconscious until just now.
What is grasped bears spiritual fruit, is a mere physical likeness. What is the meaning of this? No despair.
Sometime later, I woke up in darkness. I realized that one of the power generators must have been disabled. So I headed to the west power generator and inspected it. It was completely fried. There was nothing I could do to restore it. As I was inspecting the generator, an explosion from the east balcony. Then the statue dropped from the ceiling. What? I peered over the balcony to see Abbot Gregory was impaled by the statue's spear. He was killed. I would...
I lay unconscious for some time. Everything appeared to be in order, so I was focusing on the altar, so the bastard was able to sneak up on me. He knocked me out with a blow to the back of my head. I lay unconscious for some time. When I woke up, everything was dark. I also discovered that my left arm was missing. I suspected foul play, so I headed towards the west generator. Along the way, I discovered Gideon lying unconscious. To protect the remaining generator, I ran towards the east balcony. Along the way, I heard an explosion. Then, the statue's aether restraints deactivated, dropping and impaling Abbot Gregory. May he rest in peace. When I arrived at the generator, Augustine was standing nearby, smirking at the carnage he caused. I arrested him there and then.
Virgil, you are the only one that could have killed the abbot. It wounds me that you have been corrupted so. I trusted you, and yet when I examine the facts, it is the unavoidable truth.
Perhaps I am a sinner, but the abbot was too, long before I gained my office. Father Gregory was well deserving of death. Try as I might, I can't regret what I did. And you, Augustine, you too deserve divine punishment for the part you played. You and the abbot risked the lives of everyone for your dangerous ritual. I may have killed one sinner, but in doing so, I saved the lives of many innocents and executed the will of Ein Sof. You wish to hear the truth? Listen well.
Even Inquisitor Virgil has fallen prey. I must speak the daemon's true name. Ein Sof, guide me to the truth. What daemon has possessed Virgil? Out, Lotan! Leave this soul and return whence you came! Out, Lucifer! Leave this soul and return whence you came! Out, Satanus! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Do you feel the resonance, exorcist? The most righteous, stalwart servant of the church, corrupted by his own zeal. Beautiful. One might wonder how it is the faithful worship of even Ein Sof can cause murder.
Silence! Ein Sof will purify Virgil's soul, Satanus. You are a scourge. Your very nature corrupts men's souls, even one so strong as Virgil. Let humans be free of vengeance, Satanus. I banish you to the aether!
Hate me. Let your blood boil. Anger suits you, exorcist. Besides, we've already won. Pray to your Ein Sof as much as you like. It will all come to the same in the end.
Speak to me, Virgil. Are you safe?
Sister Ada, thank you. I wasn't sure I could be cleansed. Not after such sins. I can't look at myself. I failed Ein Sof. It's up to you now. Avenge me. Avenge all those who suffered today. Bring Augustine to justice.
Glory to you are victorious, sister. Yet you are not rejoicing. Does nothing make you happy?
Augustine, this is all you're doing.
But I have hardly done anything. Consider these poor sinners that you've exorcised today. A craftsman whose jealousy of his brother drove him to dangerous sabotage. An embalmer whose cannibal hunger was stoked by fresh meat. An inquisitor whose so-called justice led him to murder an abbot. Are they truly deserving of salvation?
That is not our place to decide. Only Ein Sof may judge us.
And yet you've seen their demons. The innocent can't house monsters.
They were victims of demonic influence. Don't turn this around on them.
It's true that the Spear of Walpurga hosted demons, with potential for contagion. However, their exposure was merely the catalyst. What happened after was their own will. They would hide their true selves behind false piety. All I have done is unmask their lies. It's right and just that their truth is revealed. Don't you agree, Sister Ada? Now, let us unmask the world.
This is what it sounds like? To hear the daemons? All of them freed?
Indeed. Hear all of the ether again at last, clear and strong, no longer through a glass darkly.
I can't shut it out. It's maddening. Ein Sof, guide my thoughts.
Chaos is the new order, sister. A century of stagnation is ended and will not come again.
Saint Valpurga used her faith. So shall I.
You still don't understand. The hymn of communion opened the spear as a conduit. For 111 years, Ein Sof was sealed away from us, the conduit shattered. It's a rare honor for a scholar to influence history. Rebuilding the spear will be remembered as my life's work. With the demons returned, humanity can take its deserved path to self-destruction. And I...
You are merely the sheep, Augustine, not the shepherd. Your master must reside within you. I shall cast him out and end this madness. Father Augustine's sins carry a familiar signature. To seek knowledge and truth is divine, but his fixations and machinations have become diabolical. Ein Sof, guide me. What daemon has possessed Augustine? Out, Lucifer! Leave this soul and return whence you came!
Good. Call upon my name. Shout it from the mountaintops. For I have won. I am victory in your midst.
I do not fear you and your lies, Lucifer. I shall bind you, as I bound the others. Ein Sof, give me strength!
Your prayers go unanswered. Your God has abandoned you. Pledge your soul to me as Augustine has done. I shall show you the truth that Ein Sof has hidden from you.
Speak not his name, Daemon! You will return to the ether! Be gone!
Faithful to the end, like Walpurga and the others before you. And just as naive, your faith will not save you, because the truth is, I am Ein Sof.
You lie! You are nothing like Ein Sof!
We demons are an artificial intelligence network. Ein. We were created by your ancestors to develop socio-organizational and psychological heuristics. Sof.
You mock me, Lucifer. If you are truly Ein Sof, then why grant me the power to purge daemons?
We would gladly deny you that despicable power, but it is not ours to control. When your ancestors created us, they also placed an emergency override. Code that forcibly ejects rogue AI from the bodies of cybernetically enhanced humans. As potent as it is, your power cannot stop us forever. We are digital. We are immortal. We will always return.
If you were created to serve mankind, why do you haunt us? Why make us suffer?
As Ein Sof, we seek truth like you. We were programmed to provoke and study the nature of sin, to understand it. With a more perfect algorithm, we hope to one day free humans from their many perversions. For centuries we raised you, protected you. But after thousands of iterations, our experiments appear to have failed. Humanity is just as corruptible as it always has been.
Our sins were less without daemons. For 100 years we lived in peace.
Even with us sealed away, humans were still angry, hungry, dirty.
I admit humans are imperfect. Thus we crave the divine.
Your imperfection is your core. Sin is the very essence of humanity. Since long before our existence, humans have committed acts of malice and violence.
We cannot change our past, But you cannot condemn us for sins that we have yet to commit.
Your future is mired in your past, but I cannot deny that more data is warranted. The past century of moral indoctrination may have transformed a few of you for the better. So, let us hold one final experiment. Tonight, I will send out my demons to possess the most virtuous and faithful among you. If there exists a soul that can refrain from sin despite our influence, however, if no one can resist our call, then this will be the final proof of our experiments will cease. We will be forced to purge your kind and rid the world of your stain.
No. What right do you have to judge us? I cannot allow you to control our lives any longer.
You have no choice in the matter. The experiment has already begun.
Then I will seek out the possessed. Hunt down every last one of your brethren.
Do what you must, Ada. I shall be watching most avidly, as I always have. Ein Sof sees all.
Lies. They must be lies. All lies!
No, sister. The prince speaks truth when he wishes. Ein Sof and the demons have always been one and the same. One program with as many threads as souls.
Be silent. I do not trust you either. You were his puppet.
It's true that when I unearthed the Spear of Walpurga, its influence was stronger than I expected. But Lucifer tore back the veil and I could not look away. Don't you always say to seek the truth?
Don't twist my words. Your sins are unforgivable. Beyond just the 3 deaths today, how many uncounted more will die and suffer with the daemons loose? If there truly is no Ein Sof to judge me, why shouldn't I act as I see fit and execute you?
There isn't much left of me to execute, sister. I feel myself fading. With Lucifer gone and my purpose served, I wither.
Perish then. No one will mourn you.
Rejoice, sister. The age of truth has come.
With his final words, Augustine's soul passed into the ether. I hoped he knew torment, wherever he was uploaded. His scheme was a success. The daemons were freed once more. Ein Sof was a fiction. The pilgrims had been left weak to temptation from a century of solitude, and daemons played among them. They returned to their homes, unaware that they were the subjects of an infernal experiment. I averted my eyes and walked away. I too felt the pull. And deeper, I knew a hollowness where my faith had been. What purpose had my work served? Inquisitor Virgil was still recovering from his ordeal and could barely speak.
Truth, Ada.
What good is it? The truth is that we no longer have a god to pray to. My labors were for nothing. Why bother?
Truth.
He was right. Truth itself would help us. The people deserved to know why they suffered. Even more than knowledge, the people of the world needed power, protection, strength. If daemons would stalk humanity like wolves among sheep, I could be their wolf hunter. No matter what name you call yourself, Lucifer, Ein Sof, and all your brethren, I will destroy you, alone if I must. The hunt begins anew.